Hi, and welcome to the Living Fullness podcast. I'm Stina.
And I'm Father Burns.
And on this episode, we're going to have a chat about living in the moment, inspired by Teresa of Calcutta.
If you're new here, we chat about the virtues, relationships, and make comments on the culture, and we discuss living the Christian life. And we're very grateful to have you with us.
Woohoo. So, living in the moment.
Right. Living in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah. I can see you're embracing it.
So, I mean, as a topic, living in the moment, it's something that was very in, that phrase was very in when I was in school, right? So it was, you got to embrace the moment, man. You know, and that was the excuse for, you know, attending raves and driving super fast.
Like YOLO.
And, like YOLO.
Yeah,
It was yesterday's version of YOLO. Exactly.
Yesterday's version of YOLO.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm old. So.
Well, I saw this quote recently that kind of got me thinking, and it actually made me check myself. But the quote went, if you want to know what someone is afraid of losing, look at what they photograph. And it just kind of made me go, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Let me pause. Let me check myself. What do I photograph?
Yeah.
I was like, I do a lot of photos of nature. It's like lots of, photos of flowers at the moment.
Yeah.
With my garden. But I think there is kind of some truth to that. Even when I think about like when I grew up and watching my parents and their use of cameras, and I remember how many videos Dad took of us when we were growing up, and how many photos Mum took and continues to take of like birthdays and milestones and outings with us and things like that. And when I look at that, I can go, well, yeah, I can see what they're either afraid of losing or just wanting to savor is time with us kids. Like they just want to mark those moments. They want to take hold of those moments as much as possible in as many ways as they can. And so photos and videos kind of helps them to do that.
Contrast that with what the world looks like at the moment.
Well, yeah, it's just like photos being plastered everywhere and phones constantly out everywhere, never away. So there's never actually a moment other than every moment that's photographed.
Right. It's interesting what we preserve, isn't it? I once heard a comedian make the observation that the younger generation is going to make the worst lot of old people ever. Right. Because like my grandparents, they were able to show us, well, my grandfather was able to show me photos of Smitty, his mate, and that he was on a ship with and in the Navy, and of this particular moment. This was Nan and Pa went to China, and this was when, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be photos of food.
Well, yeah.
This future generation is going to be photos of food. Yeah,
I was going to say, they'll just say, go look at my social media. Haven't you seen it already?
Right, yeah, exactly. True.
It's all up there.
It's all
available anyway.
Yeah.
And half of them will be of the kids anyway. So.
Right. But it's going to be my coffee order, and it's going to be my food, and it's going to be my this and that.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And so in that case, I don't think that the thing that we're afraid of losing at the moment is the avocado smash. I don't think that I hope.
Sure.
I think we also have to acknowledge that part of the photography scene at the moment is also about social media. So there is another thing that plays in terms of how good or how well with this particular footage or image do on social media.
Sure.
Like how useful is it? How is it like an opportunity that I can use to grow my brand or to grow, whatever it is. So there is that element that comes into photos now as well that didn't used to exist.
Sure.
It wasn't about how many people can I show my photos to? It was the people that mattered.
Sure.
That I showed them to. And do I get I have a keepsake of this moment. So it does play a different kind of part now. But I think that the element of truth that remains is there is still something we're afraid of. And I think we're afraid of losing this moment. So I think the photos things in terms of that quote still kind of rings true because I think it's about I want to capture this moment so that I can look back and remember this moment. Even the avocado smash, I want to be able to look back on this moment And the sad part in all of that is we actually lose the moment.
Right.
As soon as we've tried to fill it with a photo instead
Yes.
of being in it.
Yes.
Which reminds me of Mother Teresa's quote, which is be happy in the moment. That's enough. Each moment is all we need, not more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, Mother Teresa saying that, because I can recall doing a university sort of discussion group a while back. And we were talking about happiness, talking about the fact that we're made for happiness. And one of the students said, you know, I think that I can be happy without God. I think I can be happy without him. And because, you know, I've got all this happiness here, and I've got all these mementos, and I've got all of this, and I can look back and remember this. And my point to her was, yeah, but all those moments that you're able to remember, do you remember them with the same level of intensity as when you experienced it? She goes, well, no, not as when I experienced it. You know, that does degrade over time. Right, it degrades over time. The point is that if we mark each moment by being in relationship with God, if each moment of our day is actually ordered towards love of God and ordered towards service of our neighbor, not towards holding on to some ethereal event that once was, but simply ordering this moment to where it's meant to go, towards the creator of all things and towards the service of my neighbor, then I actually experience an exponential happiness. I experience a happiness which continues to grow from one moment to the next, and a happiness that is not contingent upon circumstance, a happiness which actually survives even sadness or suffering, right? Yeah. So I no longer need a memory of a past moment to be happy, because I can live in this moment with the reality that the source of all happiness is with me and helping me to direct everything that I am to him.
I was thinking about, as I was thinking about what you were saying just then, I was thinking they're all limited. They're all limited to what if a day comes where those trinkets are no longer in your possession?
Right.
Those photos are no longer in your possession. We have a crash and the cloud no longer exists. Like, is the happiness still there if the photos are gone?
Yeah.
But then as I was kind of funneling it down, going, well, what's the crux of it? It's memory. That's the last thing, right? Well, even if I don't have these possessions, I have memory of it. What if your memory fails?
Yeah.
What about as we get older and our memory doesn't work so well? Will we have the same level of happiness if that is where we found our true happiness?
Right.
And not in relationship with God.
It's funny. I was watching a thing on Instagram, I think it was recently, and it was two daughters sitting down with their mother, who was suffering with dementia quite seriously, and they said to her, "Do you remember who I am?" "No, I don't remember who you are." "You look familiar, though. I'm sure I've seen you around before. Do you remember who I am?" "No, dear, I'm sorry. I don't remember who you are, but I'm sure you're someone very important." And do you know who this is? And they gave him a picture of Jesus. "Oh, yes, that's Jesus." Who's Jesus?" "Well, here's my Lord and Savior is who he is." And it's just, you know, I mean, she's forgotten just about everyone, but she knows who Jesus is. You know, and that moment is a source of happiness and redemption and salvation for her. That moment actually matters. You know, it's despite all memory failing, the source of her happiness still exists.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. She's not forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also I like thinking about the fruits of the Spirit being present in the moment, are available to us in the moment. So we can look back and kind of reminisce, and we can even learn from the past, but we can't draw on the fruit from the past. Nor can we do that with the future. We can hope and we can dream for the future and what the Holy Spirit may want for us in the future and may be working in us for us in the future. But again, we can't access that from the future. We only have what we have in the present, and in the present, there is sufficient grace. We have everything we need in the present.
How right you are. there's a sense in which, so I had a seminarian some years back who came having had this awesome experience. So he came into first year having had an awesome experience, incredible experience. And you could see that within the context of the seminary, one of the things that he was trying to do was to recreate the super awesome experience that he had back here. And he's like, no, dude.
Yeah.
No. Nostalgia, it's not that there's anything wrong with being nostalgic necessarily, but to approach the present moment only through the lens of nostalgia, to seek to recreate what was, you miss out on the possibility of what God has for you here and now, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about this in terms of seasons as well. I was thinking in particular of like the seasons that we experience with Earth and the weather seasons, and, you know, how many times we complain about when winter comes around. Oh, it's getting too cold and I wish for the warmer months. Or when spring comes around, oh no, the bees are out and the pollen's everywhere. And, or even when, you know, summer's out, oh, now it's too hot. I can't wait for the cooler weather. Like it's sweltering. Or autumn comes around and it's too windy. Like we're forever complaining. And if it's not about the wind, it's, oh, now I've got to rake up all the leaves. Like it's always one thing after another.
I feel attacked. I feel personally attacked.
I think what you say, all of those. But it's like we're never satisfied with what nature has to offer.
Yeah.
And the season that nature has for us. And so I tried to make a very conscious effort this winter to not complain about how cold it was. And part of that actually meant learning to buy a warmer jacket. I didn't realize, not sponsored by Kathmandu, but I didn't realize how incredible a Kathmandu jacket actually is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It actually keeps you warm.
Right.
And here I have been for the last, I don't know how many years, running around in my coat going, I'm still cold. How do these people do this? I just needed a warmer jacket.
Yep.
So part of it has been do what you have to do to actually help yourself. But I've also been going, well, now that I am warmer, why am I not out there enjoying winter? Like this is actually a great season to, and as I've learned, it's a great season to hang out with your friends and go for a walk of an evening and get hot chocolate together.
Yes.
Like it's such a good season for it.
Absolutely.
You can't do that in summer. Are you kidding me?
No.
It's not the same.
No, absolutely not.
It's absolutely not the same. So there's so much joy to be found in that season. And I think in the same way, we can look at the same for our spiritual seasons as well. I think if we could pay a little bit more attention to the spiritual seasons that maybe that we're in or that we've experienced, we can learn a lot from what the Holy Spirit has done and what he may be wanting to do in this space, what God has for us in this space. So this isn't my concept. This is someone else's. Well, there's a few different people who've come up with it. So it's fairly well known in the Christian space. And it's kind of looking at winter, spring, summer, and autumn as a spiritual, in a spiritual kind of concept, where winter would be the feelings of maybe life has gone a bit dormant for a bit, or which is a natural part of a cycle, a spiritual cycle. You may even feel like maybe God's a little bit distant or a little bit quiet. Maybe there's a yearning in this season to want to draw nearer to God because he feels a little bit far away, or he feels that little bit quiet. Maybe this is a season of even being in a desolate space as well. Maybe there is some desolation as well. It might also be a season of waiting for an answer from God. Maybe this is the season where we ask lots of questions and we don't quite hear a response as clearly. And then other parts where we're being drawn into a deeper intimacy in that silence and in that more of a solitude kind of space.
Sure.
It's also marked by being a much slower pace.
Yeah.
So things move a little bit slower in life. And so maybe that can be a kind of winter for our spiritual lives.
Place of maybe sort of preparation, or sort of a period in which we can be sort of preparing for the spring to come?
Well, it's not even quite, I mean, maybe parts of it will be a preparation period, but it's almost like a pulling back, a retreating.
Sure. It's like the season. If you could mark a scriptural passage to the season, maybe you could put there, go and find I'm not doing justice to it here, but find a quiet place go to a quiet place, be with your father.
Yeah.
It's kind of a place where you feel you need to draw closer, or a place where maybe you're feeling that bit of desolation and a bit of a call towards, like,
Yes.
I want to be closer,
Yes.
but I'm not sure how just at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're saying.
Yeah.
Spring?
And so spring would be feeling like there's kind of new life around every corner. Like there's this newness coming around. And so God's kind of moving in lots of different directions,
Yes,
and you
yes.
can kind of see it starting to come out. And that could be in your life and in the life of the people around you as well. And so maybe there's maybe in our own lives, this could be the season where certain seeds are being planted. And maybe we recognize them, maybe we don't, but maybe this is the space where the Holy Spirit goes, yep, I'm planting this. This is where I'm putting this. I'm very intentionally planting this one. And so it's also a season to then wait and watch as well. This is a season to not quite be as retreated as winter. We're a little bit out now from that winter season, but we're still watching and we're still nurturing in this space. This could also be maybe the season where there's new relationships that form, maybe new friendships, new communities come about, or different dynamics in relationships. That could be a spring kind of season. Or milestones. Yeah. People hitting different milestones could be a spring kind of season.
Definitely. I can kind of speak to this one a little bit. I feel like I'm in a little bit of the spring at the moment, right? I just finished a thesis, which was definitely winter. And and now it's like, okay, I've got messages from friends that I haven't really given that much attention to. It's time to reconnect. It's time to I'm sorry I've been a little bit distant lately. I'm sorry. It seems like I've been, it's just I've been knee deep in a book, and so I can kind of get that.
Yeah.
There's new friendships or old friendships springing to life, and
yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see what you think of summer then.
Okay, all right.
Because summer is more like, it could be a bit like a roller coaster, but it's also like this season where there's lots of energy being used. Not necessarily the person is feeling lots of energy, but there's lots of energy in the season throughout. So there's a lot of work to be done in this season, and a lot of joy that can be found in this season as well. But there can be a lot of fruit that comes from in this particular season. So we can start to see the seeds that have grown and they've become, fruit-bearing trees. We can start to see the flowers are in blossom in our lives, if you will. But even with the fruits that are there, they're still not quite ready. Like they're really there, they've grown, you can see them, but they're not quite ready just yet. And so maybe this is a season of like really quick growth. Maybe there's like rapid growth that happens in this. Maybe that's in the space of work, or again in relationships. Could be in our own interior life as well, like our prayer life. Maybe that's taking a bit of an energy boost. Or in church community life. So different aspects but energy is coming out in this space. There's lots of activity. So I'm interested to see if you still think thesis was winter for you, or whether that kind of makes you look at it.
I mean, it could have been summer. Certainly it could have been summer. I was calling it winter just because it was
because it was cold and dreary.
It was cold and hard. Yeah, that's interesting. I need to give that more thought.
Yeah. Okay.
I need to give that more thought.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And then obviously we have autumn, our last season, which this season could be the season where things feel like it's beginning to slow down again. Not completely slowed down, not winter, but that's downward space of, okay, things are not moving so fast as they were in summer, and there isn't new growth necessarily coming through right now in this season. And even though we're slowing down, we're not going to be so slowed down because we have fruit that is ready to be harvested. So it's this point where we're like, okay, now we can pick off these fruits. We can actually see them. They're like fully ripened. They're being ready to be used. They're ready to be gifted. And so there may even in this season be a kind of methodical approach, or a bit repetitive even, like even as you're thinking about harvest and you're thinking about picking a fruit tree, it's very repetitive, the action that's kind of taken place. And so autumn maybe feels a bit like that. Things are starting to feel repetitious, not necessarily in a negative kind of way. It doesn't have to. That just depends on how we associate with it. But maybe there is a kind of method to it, and that method could be quite meditative even.
Yeah.
And so in this season, maybe there's kind of like an abundance. This could be a season of abundance, which seems strange when you think about, well, shouldn't that be spring when everything's flowering, or shouldn't that be summer when all things are energetic? But things aren't ready until
I don't know. Yeah, well, I think that's right. That's right. Things aren't ready, and often you can't appreciate beauty until autumn arrives.
Yeah.
Right. You can't appreciate the beauty of something until until autumn. Sort of.
Yeah.
When I was in Narrandera, I used to love the drive back from Grong Grong, because the drive back from Grong Grong for our American friends.
That is a place.
That is a place. And you can call so we're from Wagga Wagga.
Yeah.
You can call Wagga Wagga Wagga.
Yeah.
Right. You can shorten it to Wagga, but you can't shorten Grong Grong to Grong.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just the rules.
And we're not even joking. It's true.
No, dead set. Like, there'll be angry people.
Yeah.
But I'm lost. So driving back from Grong Grong to Narrandera, you jump onto the I think it's the Newell Highway, and there's just this road that has these beautiful trees either side of it that are in their autumn shed. And you just, and as the sun rises, it's just, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. That is just like, it's a beauty that only comes around once a year.
Yes.
But it's a beauty that you stop. And I've never been one to stop and appreciate nature, right? It's just not been me. But it was one of those sights that just always made me go, wow. You know, the glory and the grandeur and the splendor of God.
Yeah.
And so maybe this spiritual period of autumn is that period where, as you say, the fruit is ready, but also you're able to look back and go, so that's what you were doing, God.
Exactly.
So that's what you were doing.
Yes, exactly.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I think with this season, we shouldn't mistake it for thinking, well, if I have lots of fruit in my life, therefore I must have been through an autumn season, or I must be in an autumn season, because it may not be lots and lots of fruit. It may not be abundance, but it will be fruit that's ready. And maybe that's just one, maybe that's two.
Yeah.
But there'll be some that'll be ready, may not be so many. And so because we go through these seasons, and not necessarily in that order that nature goes through these seasons, we can go through them in different ways. Different autumn seasons of our lives can look different. But maybe this is a way for us to kind of talk about, well, what kind of season, to describe the kind of spiritual season that we're in.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, just as a way of summarizing perhaps where we've gone here, is that we need to live in the moment. We need to live in the present moment. There is to be found our sanctification. And that's what God calls us to. He calls us to, in the words of one of my mentors, He's calling us to confront the present moment and to seize it, and to recognize that that's where we're called to be at any given time. It's right there with God. And that our happiness is not found in a moment of the past. It's not found in a moment of a future that is yet to pass. It's to be found in the here and now, because in the here and now we have a foretaste, if we allow God to work in our lives, a foretaste of the future, of the eternal future that is to come, which is just awesome. And and in living in the moment, then you can maybe be aware of what season you're in your life. You know, is it a summer or an autumn or a spring or a winter season? And wherever you are, just accept that. Just be like, this is where I am right now. This is where God has called me to be, and that's okay. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. Well, there's growth in every one of those.
Exactly.
Stages, and those seasons aren't permanent either.
That's right. That's right.
There's hard parts and challenges in those seasons. It will pass.
It will pass. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe one thing to practice this week could be to consider taking a question to God and ask, what season am I in, Lord?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which season am I? Help me to see what kind of season I'm in. Help me to describe the season that I'm in. And then maybe use something like the descriptions that we've used to see if that works for you.
I love it.
Cool.
All right.
We have some exciting stuff coming up in Virtue Ministry space, so make sure you're following our social media handles to be able to find out some of the new initiatives that we're working towards for 2025, which there will be opportunities for you to get involved in. So we'd love to be able to hear from you, but to do that, you need to know when it's happening. And to know when it's happening, you need to be following our socials. So make sure you go
follow social media.
If you haven't already and you would like to contribute financially to the podcast, please jump over to our Patreon handle as well and join up to any one of the tiers. Your financial support literally helps make this podcast viable.
Absolutely.
In 2025, and we're still looking for a few more donors. So if you're able to, we would encourage you to go and do that.
Please.
Before we end the episode, Padre, truth, beauty, and goodness.
Truth, beauty, and goodness. So recently I've finished up teaching a subject called the mission of the church. And in that subject, I had to, obviously when you create a subject and you craft the material, you've got to become familiar with the readings you're asking the students to engage with and all of that. So, but one that I reconnected with that I've asked the students to pick up is Pastores Dabo Vobis. I will give you shepherds by John Paul II, quoting from Jeremiah. And it's a beautiful document. And in particular, I had the students read numbers 6 through 8, which is a summary of the various challenges that are posed to the world in which we live. And he does such a wonderful job of outlining those challenges and really just situating them and demonstrating how they're a challenge and where the conquering of those challenges starts. So it's I actually recommend it to you all. I don't mean to give you homework, but I recommend it to you all. Paragraph 6 to 8, just beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Pastores Dabo Verbis.
Awesome.
When I say paragraphs, I mean numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not literal.
Don't count the paragraphs.
Don't count the paragraphs, just number 6 to number 8.
Yeah.
And if you have any further questions, just message us.
Yeah.
Stina, what about you?
For me, it's my little sister. She's been kicking goals like mad. She's a policewoman back in Norway, and she's always had a dream of working in a particular sector, I won't name what, of the police. And she's been in the field, working fully fledged in the field for 2 years, and she's already landed the dream jobs.
Hey.
She's just kicking goals.
Congratulations, Quincy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So proud. So happy for her.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, we are at the end nearly of the season. We've got like one episode to go, and then we're at the end, done for season 6. So join us again next week. But until then, know of our love and prayers.
God bless.